If anyone had told me that a simple sunny morning would transform my life forever, I would have dismissed it as a wild exaggeration. My name is Evelyn, and until recently my days were filled with quiet routines and a seemingly unshakable marriage. But then came the day Mark's friend Daniel appeared unexpectedly at our doorstep. I've always been a meticulous homemaker, finding solace in the simple rhythm of chores. That morning, with Mark at work and the kids at school, I immersed myself in cleaning, music blaring, windows wide open to let in the sunshine. I was so lost in my tasks that I didn't hear the doorbell ring. Daniel had borrowed our lawn mower the week before and now he had come to return it. After getting no response at the door, he made his way to the backyard intending to leave it there. Passing the dining room window, he caught sight of me dancing absent-mindedly as I swept the floor. He hesitated, his eyes lingering. Later, he told me he had been fascinated by the scene that typically reserved Evelyn so free and unguarded in her element. I wasn't aware of his presence until I turned toward the window and saw him standing there. The shock froze me. My first instinct was to cover myself, even though I was decently dressed in casual shorts and a tank top. Heart racing, I grabbed a robe and went outside to confront him. "Daniel, what were you doing at the window?" I asked, trying to mask my unease with a light tone. He smiled awkwardly. "I called out but you didn't hear me. I thought something might be wrong." His explanation seemed plausible, yet something in his demeanor felt off, a nervous energy that unsettled me. To break the tension, I joked, "You're lucky I didn't call the police on you for spying." He laughed, the sound strained, and suggested a drink to cool off. Reluctantly, I invited him inside. We sat in the living room, glasses of orange juice in hand. Daniel's compliments started innocuously enough. He praised my home and my knack for making it so inviting, but soon his words veered into more personal territory. "I've always thought you had this elegance about you, Evelyn, but seeing you like that, so carefree, it's different," he said, his voice soft. I felt a flush rise to my cheeks. "You're exaggerating," I replied, trying to dismiss his comment, but he persisted. "No, I mean it. There's something about you that draws people in." I laughed nervously, unsure of how to respond. His gaze lingered, and I felt a strange mix of flattery and unease. When Daniel finally left, I thought that would be the end of it, but the encounter stayed with me, a lingering weight in the back of my mind. I tried to push it aside, telling myself it was harmless, yet when Daniel started stopping by more frequently, always under the guise of borrowing tools or catching up with Mark, I couldn't ignore the growing tension. One afternoon, he arrived unannounced. The kids were still at school, and Mark was out of town for work. I considered not answering the door, but curiosity got the better of me. Daniel stood on the porch, a sheepish smile on his face. "I'm sorry to drop by like this. I just needed someone to talk to." I hesitated but stepped aside to let him in. "What's wrong?" I asked, leading him to the kitchen. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's nothing really, just work stress and other things." I handed him a glass of water. "Well, talking helps sometimes." He looked at me, then his eyes searching mine. "You're always so kind, Evelyn. I don't know how you do it." The words felt heavy, loaded with unspoken meaning. I tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground, but the atmosphere had shifted. As he stood to leave, Daniel hesitated, then without warning, he reached for my hand. "I'm sorry," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I shouldn't." Before I could react, he leaned in and kissed me. It was brief, a fleeting moment that left me stunned. When he pulled away, the look of regret on his face mirrored my own. "I have to go," he stammered, turning and walking out the door. That night, I lay awake, the memory of his kiss replaying in my mind. Guilt clawed at me, but so did something else, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. I loved Mark, but our marriage had become predictable, the spark dulled by time and routine. Daniel's attention had awakened something dormant, something I wasn't ready to confront. In the days that followed, I avoided him whenever he came by. I found excuses to be elsewhere, but the tension remained, an invisible thread pulling us together despite my efforts to resist. One evening, Mark mentioned that Daniel had seemed different lately. "He's been quieter than usual," he said over dinner. "I wonder if something's bothering him." I forced a smile. "Maybe he's just busy." Mark nodded, oblivious to the turmoil inside me. I hated the deception, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. A week later, Daniel showed up again. This time I couldn't avoid him. He stood on the porch, his expression earnest. "Evelyn, we need to talk," he said. I crossed my arms, trying to appear composed. "There's nothing to talk about, Daniel. What happened was a mistake." "I know," he replied, "but it doesn't change how I feel." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I felt the ground shift beneath me, the boundaries I'd tried so hard to maintain crumbling. "This has to stop," I said firmly, "for both our sakes." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I understand, but I needed you to know that night." I told Mark everything. The guilt had become unbearable, and I couldn't keep lying to him. As I spoke, his expression shifted from confusion to anger to heartbreak. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked, his voice strained. "I was scared," I admitted, "scared of losing you, scared of what it would mean." Mark took a deep breath, his hands trembling. "We'll get through this," he said finally, "but things have to change." The next morning, Mark confronted Daniel. I stayed in the kitchen, my heart pounding as their voices rose and fell. When Mark returned, he looked exhausted but resolute. "He won't be coming around anymore," he said. I nodded, relief and sadness washing over me in equal measure. In the weeks that followed, Mark and I worked to rebuild our marriage. It wasn't easy, but we were committed to finding our way back to each other. As for Daniel, he became a distant memory, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the importance of boundaries. Looking back, I know that day changed me. It forced me to confront parts of myself I'd ignored for too long, to reevaluate what I wanted, did, and who I wanted to be. And while the scars remain, they've made me stronger, more aware of the choices that define us.